Welcome back to News Geelong. The Lara Bowling Club has waited patiently over the past 12 years for ongoing discussions and planning around the Lara Central shopping area that has now realised a dream of a complete new bowling club with facilities, infrastructure and location to the forefront. News Geelong visited the new bowling club for this report.
$3.2 million and went up very, very quickly. It's great. It must be a great feeling around the bowling club and around the whole community.
It is. It's a marvellous facility. We're very lucky to have it in Lara, and now all of the sporting areas are in the one area, which is going to be very, very good for the community.
And we had a look at the old premises before we came across to the new premises, and it's the process of demolition. And but when we come across here, absolutely striking from the outside, in through all the wonderful new areas of dining rooms, modern kitchen, toilets, etc. And then we'll go outside the playing area a bit later in the program. But it must be a great lift.
It is. It is very good, and our kitchen is one of the best facilities in the bowling industry. We're very lucky to have it. It's very, very commercial, so we hope to have some very good do's here, over the years to come.
Kick your heels up in Lara.
Yes, especially New Year's Eve.
A little bit of retrospective look at what's taken place, Lorraine. How long has this planning been in the pipeline?
Well, when you look back, I suppose it all started 12 years ago. It's been on, it's been off, and now eventually we've won the raffle. I think this is a superb thing that's happened to Lara and the bowling club. So.
And the primary reason behind the relocation from old to new?
Lara is redeveloping their whole business centre down there. The retail will be good. We're getting a whole new Coles supermarket, 10 or 12 specialty stores, so they needed the land there to expand, so that's why we've moved, or they have relocated us. So.
And after some 50 plus years across at the original site of the Lara Bowling Club, we're now into $3.2 million worth of new facilities and future growth possible with population increases and the younger players still coming through.
Yes, the younger ones, we've got a really good, strong junior side, and also now we're next to the high school, as you can see. They're coming over and using our facilities as well, which is a good thing. But this facility, is for the community as well as our bowls club as well, so it'll be great.
Thank you to all involved at Lara, and congratulations on what clearly becomes a new benchmark in the local bowling club environment. The legacy of climate and catchment change continues to provide a real challenge for wetland management. The Professor of Environmental Management at the University of Ballarat, Peter Gell, is currently involved in an international environmental wetland study, as Ian Nichols reports.
Well, we all know the wetlands around the Geelong region are very precious, and with that in mind, a very special conference has been held recently, hosting delegates from 12 countries around the world. And it was convened by Professor Peter Gell from the Ballarat University, who tells us about the success of this worldwide conference. Well, you've had visitors literally from all over the world, 12 countries at least, so it's a very important conference, this one.
That's right. Well, Ramsar is an international protocol, so we wanted to have broad representation around the world. We've actually had every continent represented on this two-day tour, all the way to Port Fairy and back to Geelong.
Well, you've covered a lot of ground, and I guess you've covered a lot of issues as well, because right now is probably a very critical time in world climate and the preservation of wetlands.
That's right. The climate is changing, as we know, but also there are increasing pressures from humanity on many of the world's wetlands. We've heard that China's lost 28,000 rivers over the last decade or so. We've heard considerable degradation in the wetlands of India and even in nearby New Zealand. So there are increasing pressures on wetlands, and one of those is the drying of wetlands across some parts of the world, but increasing storminess.
So could we say that any one of these is the main danger, or there are a number of things that could happen?
Well, these things tend to combine to change the conditions of wetlands worldwide, and what we're seeing is that both with the incremental impact of humanity as well as climate change, that many wetlands are drifting off into conditions they've never been before. So in a protocol like Ramsar, which endeavours to keep wetlands in good ecological health, the baseline point is really important to identify so that you can know whether wetland has changed permanently or whether it's just varying around some sort of average condition.
Well, we know here in Australia we've got 65 wetlands listed under the Ramsar Convention. What sort of health are they in at the moment?
Well, in terms of long-term condition, many wetlands have changed across Australia, particularly after European settlement and particularly through the last big drought. It's a matter of whether these can rebound from that drought, particularly in southeastern Australia, is one of the things of interest at the moment. But broadly, many Australian wetlands have changed inexorably from the time that they were listed, let alone from the beginning of European settlement. So there's a real quandary as to whether we should try and keep them to the baseline of when they were listed, which is what we typically do in Australia, or look at some other historical point in time, or perhaps imagine what sort of wetland we want for the future, recognising that the climate is going to dry over the next decades and centuries.
At Geelong's Gerringott Wetlands, this is Ian Nichols for News Geelong.
Thank you, Ian. On a sad note, Mother Nature can be harsh sometimes, as mutton birds on their gruelling migration to the southeast of Australia have to go for long periods of time without food, face severe winds and storms on their journey and just don't make it, dying from exhaustion, injury or starvation. Ian Nichols has the story.
This is Fisherman's Beach in Torquay, typical of most beaches along the east coast at this time of the year. A very sad sight. We have these short-tailed shearwethers, commonly known as mutton birds, for as far as the eye can see. They've died on the beach just from sheer exhaustion. They're migratory birds and they've come all the way from the Arctic Circle, about 30,000 kilometres in fact, but they just didn't make it. They've either dropped into the sea on the way and been washed up, or they finally made it to the beach but too exhausted to go another inch. Such a sad story. We're going to take a closer look at these migratory birds. Now, dog owners have been told not to come near these birds, interfere with nature, so to speak. They're left to wash back when the high tide arrives, and they become a feeding ground for other animals and birds and seawater creatures. It's just the way nature acts in this world of ours in the southern hemisphere. It's so sad to see these mutton birds, which of course to the indigenous people many hundreds of years ago were good eating, of course, and they also got the oil. They're a very oily bird, and that had great medicinal purposes for them. And because they are so oily, it means they are able to travel for great distances. But even then, they lose half their body weight getting as far as the southern shores of Australia. Just so sad to see, and they're going to be here for a little while yet. It's going to take a while for nature to take its course, and they'll either be buried in the sand or washed back out to sea for a natural environment that they create. And this really happens every year, just something that nature can't do anything about. These dear little birds, which weigh about 500 grams and fly at 85 kilometres an hour, end up here, which is such a tragic ending. This is Ian Nichols on the beach at Torquay for News Geelong.
Thank you, Ian. This is News Geelong as we go to a break and return with more news and the unpredictable weather after this.